This music is totally about movement by step. That's it. Well, hi there again, it's me, Penny. Welcome back to my practice room. In this video, I'm talking about Invention number 13 in A minor by J.S. Bach. Specifically, I want to tell you what I listen for when I play this piece. In my previous video, I did a full-on performance of this, and so this is my opportunity to just explain a little bit about the things that I'm listening for. In a nutshell, what I'm listening for here is movement by step. I'm trying to get my ears and eyes to look at the page on a macro level. Certainly micro is important, but macro is really important for listening so that you can look at a passage of many notes and not get tangled up and overwhelmed by the sheer quantity, but be able to extract essential notes moving by step, either up or down, that you can then plug into your ear by singing so that you can remember those notes and give them a little bit more prominence in the finished performance. I find this helps contribute towards a less static, a less boring performance. We always want to find what it is in the music we play that interests us most in each passage. What interests your ear? What stands out to your ear the most? And bring that out. So let's just dive in here. I played this piece in my previous video, so you can hear what I do with it in the finished product. But we're just going to get into the dirt here and play around a little bit. So the piece is in A minor, and it opens with this gesture, which is alternating up, down movement, and that gets copied in the left hand, and again in the right hand, and like a good ping pong match, back again in the left. The hands are volleying this little musical motive back and forth. In that little musical motive, I am listening for 3 notes, moving by step, and those 3 notes are A, B, and C. Movement by step is always a good place to look for notes you want to bring out. So once you've identified movement by step, sing those notes. A, B, C, and then the left hand, A, B, C, and then the right hand has it, A, B, C, and the left hand one more time, and then we get something new. So that's what I'm listening for in the first 2 bars. A, B, C, back and forth, twice in each hand. Then we get some sequential material in measures 3 and 4. And here, this is the section that goes like this. I think what I like most, and it does change from day to day. I'm not fixed or roped into one way of voicing, but 9 days out of 10, I think I'll pick the left hand there. C, B, C, A, G, F, G, C. I'm not the best singer in the world, obviously, but you don't need to be. As long as you can just match the pitch and hold on to it as you play. And go slowly too. I'm doing it kind of quickly here because I don't want to bore you with this. But you get the idea. And that brings us to a nice little 5/1 cadence in the key now of C major, which is the relative of our home key, A minor. And this is in the middle of measure 6, where now the little motive we had at the beginning in the right hand in A minor is now in the left hand in C major. It's like the sun has come out from behind the clouds. And of course the right hand answers left again, right again. It's another ping pong match or a tennis match. Maybe you prefer tennis. So in the same fashion that I was picking out A, B, C, I'm just going to transpose it now because I'm in C major, and those three notes become C, D, E, then in the right hand, C, D, E, and in the left, then the right. So that takes us to the middle of measure 8. This piece is only 25 bars long, so already we're nearly a third of the way through. Then we get, suddenly, Bach is messing with us. He's making sure we're awake. He's giving us a little slap in the face, a gentle slap in the face to say, watch out, something new is coming, because then in the end of measure 8, suddenly the contour changes. It now goes down. We had going up. But then it goes down. And then the right hand has quite a significant jump. Whenever you have a registral jump, that is something also that's fun to bring out. But this little interruption by the left hand in the second half of measure 8 takes us to another sequential passage in measure 9 and 10. And that sounds like this. Of course, this is the main bit. It gets copied down a step. And then it begins to get copied again, down a step, one more time. But then it thwarts itself and it veers off into another direction. And that's another thing. When you find patterns in music by Bach where he repeats himself 2, maybe 3 times, and then on that third time, or maybe even a fourth time, suddenly, woo, it goes the opposite direction. He's playing with us. He wants us to hear that. These are such exciting moments to enjoy, and you have to infuse some energy and this passion and love for it into those places. But in this sequence at measure 9 and 10, what I'm choosing to listen for on most days, because again, this is not etched in stone, there is no right or wrong way to voice something. You bring out what you want to bring out. It's like when you go get dressed in the morning. You choose what you're going to wear, unless you have a uniform for work. But you choose what you're going to wear, what colors you want to put together. Same thing here. You're choosing which socks you're going to put on. So at measure 9, I'm listening for the C in the right hand. Going to B, to A, G. And actually it keeps going. It just gets sort of cut in half, and that movement by step happens twice as often as it did. But it's just C, the downbeat of the right hand, measure 9, C, measure 10, B, and measure 11, A. That's what I like to listen for. And I sing many times, slowly, and then usually I keep singing even when I pick the tempo up. And those notes, C, B, A, retain a little bit more skeletal structure, a little bit more depth to the sound, and I just think that makes it so much more interesting, less bland and static. And then that takes us to a fairly difficult passage in the middle of 11 through measure 12. This part. This is hard. I mean, granted, in relation to the Goldberg variations, this is a walk in the park, but it's still tricky because there's just so much alternation of interval, up, down, up, down, up, down, and the notes are a skip apart. And so you really have to lean forward and stay close to the key, and most importantly, rotate. If I do it really slowly, you can't, I don't have a camera. It'd be fun if I had a camera right in here pointed at me. But what I'm doing there is this kind of motion. So the upper arm will hug against your body, and the wrist will laterally shift to one side as the passage ascends. And then as it descends, you open, rotate to the other side. The arm opens more to the left. This kind of thing. And it's happening on a rapid basis. So that rotation needs to happen pretty quickly. And then we get some new material, another little sequence. Repeats down a step. Repeats a third time. Holy moly, 3 times. And a 4th time, no less. And that brings us back to the home key of A minor in measure 18. But for that spot I just played, measure 14 through 17, I'm listening for, let's say, the descending stepwise movement in the left hand. So measure 14, E, E, D, C, B, A, right? So that's just one way that you can choose to voice those 4 bars. And as I say, that brings us to A minor, and more importantly, the return of the opening section here at measure 18, where we get, once again, a little bit of the volley ping-pong match, but just once per hand, not like at the beginning where we had 2 bars of it. It's just 1 bar of it here. But nevertheless, we can still transplant what we did before in the beginning, listening for A, B, C, left hand, A, B, C. And that brings us to another one of these tricky bits like we had at measure 12 and 13. This is the passage at 90 where we have to do more of this rotating because we have so much alternation of direction, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's this passage. If I had a camera on the fall board here, you would see that I'm doing this, rotating my hand and wrist, and so it's a mirror image. Each hand is mirroring one another. In my right hand, as a passage ascends, I am rotating to the right, opening my arm away from the body. As it descends, I'm rotating to the left and scooching my upper arm towards the body, and the reverse in the left hand. So being mindful of that through that section, and then we get another clear arrival a bar later back in the tonic, where we have we're firmly in A minor there in measure 20, and it's not really anything that I'm super concerned about voicing here. I'm just trying to maintain firm tone and driving to the low D sharp in the left hand. I think that's what interests me most in this bar, measure 21. Similarly, the F sharp in the right hand, which is preceded by a C. This is a tritone. The spot here, it's kind of a shocking, spicy interval. A tritone coupled with a diminished 7th in the left hand. Woo! This is a fun moment. Drive groove to those. I think, anyway, it gives it some fire. Another log on the fire here, if you can voice those notes with a bit more depth. And then we launch into what seems like another trip around the track of this material, like we had in the beginning and at measure 18, except that he keeps it going up by step, up by step, up by step again, and then suddenly changes direction and launches into a final push towards the concluding cadence. This is measure second half of measure 22 through the end. So we get up a step, up a step, up a step again, and then he turns around and goes the other way, and then some more alternation of the passage work. But in each of those repetitions, in the middle of 22 and throughout measure 23, you can pull out some movement by step again, and that would be A in the right hand, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then that B flat in the left hand that kind of interrupts, going to G sharp. I think that's fun to suddenly protrude out of the texture and then launches the left hand as the more dominant of the two in measure 24. Really driving to that note, the G sharp, and then our final cadence. And on that last note in the right hand, A, you can add a little mordant there if you like. I think it helps to put a nice bow on the package. It gives a little bit more sense of conclusion, and it's totally appropriate to add a mordant there at the end of the piece. Now these things that I've been talking about relate to listening, to voicing, to which notes you want to bring out, which notes are more interesting perhaps than others, listening for movement by step. What I've talked about today does not relate to the issue of technique and the strength and independence of your fingers, the flexibility of wrist. Those things related to the body and the technique itself need to be practiced separately. And assuming that you do some scales and perhaps some broken chords, and these exercises, which I've talked about before, these are the essential finger exercises for obtaining a sure piano technique. They're by Ernest von Dohnányi, and these are wonderful. Rosalind Turek, the great Bach pianist, recommended them. And if they're good enough for Rosalind, they're good enough for me. But they really do make a difference. I feel like after I begin my practice session with these, as well as stretches on the floor, and then some slow wrist gymnastics, as Alfred Cortot used to say, just trying to get independence and flexibility of the wrist, both up and down, as well as in a circular lateral fashion. I also practice this piece with a lot of ultra slow forte staccatos. It's not pleasant to listen to because it's quite loud, and when you flick the note with an energized fingertip for a crisp staccato, again, it does not sound the best, but it helps with finger strength, which is what you need to be able to bring out these notes that we've looked at on the macro level as being perhaps more interesting than others. So there's many dimensions, and there's also the practice tool of using your metronome and practicing with an accent on each beat, and then maybe very light through the bar but emphasized downbeats, kind of a slow motion type of practice, more singing, and all of this combined together with oodles of singing should hopefully give you a product that you're pleased with. I know I was pleased with the performance that I put up of this A minor invention in my previous video, and we'll keep working to find more things to say, because there's always more magic to be found on the page. We are never done with these pieces. I will have one more video devoted to this A minor invention, and that one will feature inverted voices, like I did for Invention number 8 in F major. And this is part of a project that I did a few years ago to arrange all of the two-part inventions for inverted voices, where the left hand plays the right hand part and the right hand plays the left hand part. It's not a literal note for note inversion, but rather an inversion of parts, which is, as Rosalind Turek said, I got this idea from her. She said this is an essential way for practicing how to play in a contrapuntal style. And that's what this music is. Of course, I have my kaleidoscope here because Bach's music with all the sequences and patterns just reminds me of the shapes inside of a kaleidoscope. The symmetry, the geometric patterns linking up, the different colors. So I have that here as a reminder. So that's all for now. I hope this was helpful. Thank you again for watching. I'll be back again soon for more performances of Bach's music and some teaching tips. And until then, I hope you're well, stay healthy, and happy practicing. Bye-bye.